Hello, this is Matt from tracyandmatt.co.uk and from unboxings.com. Here I have the Sony Ericsson Vivaz Pro. It's been a couple of months since we first saw the Vivaz itself, and well, this is obviously the Pro version, if you like. Some other little slight differences that we can actually go ahead and show you, but the handset itself is immediately on top, and we're going to have a look at that in a bit more detail in just a second. In terms of what else we have in the box, we have a wired headset with a 4-pole 3.5mm jack on one end. There is this inline microphone with push button there, as you can see it here, just clicking there, and the headphones themselves. Now, very plastic, fantastic, maybe not. I think you're probably going to want to use your own headphones, unless you really desperately want to use a wired headset. I'm sure you're going to want to use your own headphones with this this handset rather than those plastic headphones. We have the wall charger with a USB style connector on the top, non-captive. We do therefore have to use the USB to micro USB sync charge cable with the actual wall charger. There's not two cables, if you like, so you will have to sort of switch between the two. Then have something else which we'll check out. A micro SD USB adapter. Not sure if that's standard or just something that's come as part of our review package, but it's a USB key that allows you to actually plug in a micro SD card, so you can actually read it back on the PC. Very useful for transferring footage, videos and music and that sort of thing from a micro SD card without having to use the computer, or rather the handset itself. Just move that out of the way. Finally, in the bottom we have all sort of your warranty there, SAR information. We have the important notice, another important information, and the user guide. Let's just move these out of the way. The user guide itself, as is really typical of Sony Ericsson, it's kind of just a huge fold-out leaflet rather than a booklet. I guess it kind of makes it cheaper to produce. I guess most people won't bother to read it anyway, but you know, typically Sony Ericsson do have sort of that style of sort of manual, if you like. So let's take a look at the handset itself. I'm not going to go into an awful lot of detail of the operating system because we have got quite a lot of videos on the Vivaz itself, and the Vivaz Pro, in terms of the operating system, is going to be absolutely identical. It's the hardware that's different. So first and foremost, on the front we have a 3.2-inch display, which is 360 by 640 pixels. Not the most common display resolution, but it's not bad nonetheless. We do have a little sensor on the front. I think that's a sensor rather than forward-facing camera, but there's a little thing there just at the front. I don't believe that's a camera. I think that is just a sensor. Underneath that we have a menu key and the red and green phone keys, so yeah, answer and hang up buttons effectively. On the left hand side, let's just peel that out of the way so that we can see that properly. On the left hand side we have a cover over the micro USB sync charge connector, and then the 3.5mm headphone socket there just next to that on the left hand side. That's all really down that side. There is what looks to be a button. It isn't, it's just kind of a little dimple, if you like. Nothing much to see on the bottom. We do have a sort of lanyard eyelet there, so we can connect up a lanyard or a phone charm. On the right hand side we have another series of controls. At the top we have an up and down volume control rocker, which is quite unusual to have on this side. It is much more common to have it on the left. It is here on the right. It is also used as a zoom control though, so it does make sense to have it on the right hand side for this particular handset next to the camera controls. So you have two camera buttons. In fact, you have one for taking stills and the other one for recording video. Now the video recording for this camera or for this handset is up to 720p at 30 frames a second, so pretty impressive. Do have the two buttons there, so you don't have to switch mode on the display or anything like that. It is just by using the different buttons. Slight criticism there is there is a tendency to kind of just hit the wrong one, but you know, then you don't have to go through the menu, so there's swings and roundabouts there. Nothing to see on the top. On the back we have the power button. Again, it's quite unusual to have the button placement just there, but that is the power and the lock button, so you kind of just hold that down and it should power up. And so it just comes on. We'll wait for that to come on. You'll notice there is a little LED there. which does actually show us our charge status when we're actually charging through the micro USB sync charge connector. On the back, we have a 5 megapixel autofocus camera with a flash. Now it's 5 megapixel autofocus on the Vivaz Pro and 8 megapixels on the Vivaz. Now there's a reason for that. I'm sure you probably by now all know what that is, and that is because of the sliding QWERTY keyboard and the amount of room that basically takes up. Just sort of encroaches on an 8 megapixel camera and sensor, so it's 5 megapixel on this one. Decent 4 rows of keys, although it's really 3 rows in terms of the actual letters being on 3 rows, and then the numbers being sort of staggered in the center here by using the shift and the little blue key there to actually get your number keys, rather than an dedicated row for numbers. So that's sort of there. Like many other Sony Ericsson handsets, they don't work unless you put a SIM card in them. So basically, it ain't going to work at all with that SIM card. So it's just as well that I'm not planning to show you the operating system. So if you do want to see the operating system on the Vivaz, I've got 2 or 3 other videos that show the Vivaz itself in much greater detail. So if you want to see what that's all about, please check out those other videos. So they were about well, probably getting on for 2 months ago now. So the hardware is the only difference between the Vivaz and the Vivaz Pro. The keys are pretty decent. They do allow me to sort of type. They are nice and tactile. They have a nice click to them, and they are backlit. Although you're probably not going to be able to make that out in a great detail there, but they're quite decent. The mechanism isn't bad. Spring loaded, as you would expect. It feels okay. It's fairly smooth, and I think quite used to it, and it is quite slim. It's only a couple of millimeters thicker than the Vivaz, despite having the actual sliding QWERTY keyboard, so it's pretty impressive, and it's still quite nice and lightweight. I'll just run down the rest of the specification for you. The internal memory is only 75 meg, so you are going to want to use a micro SD card if you're going to take any amount of videos or photos. You're definitely going to want to use a memory card. 720 megahertz processor, 3.2 inch display, as I've already mentioned, is 360 by 640 pixels. It is quad band for GSM and dual band for HSDPA, so it will work most places, although you may not get 3G connectivity in the USA or certainly parts of the USA, but it's going to work pretty much wherever you take it when you're roaming. It does have built-in Wi-Fi supporting 802.11b and G, Bluetooth 2 with A2DP support, GPS supporting assisted GPS, 3.5mm headphone jack, as I've already mentioned. The memory card supports up to 16 gig according to the specification that we've got from Sony Ericsson, so it sounds like it doesn't support up to 32 gig. Now whether that's just been untested or if it will unofficially support 32 gig, I can't really confirm that at the moment, but the spec is actually saying only 16 gig. 5 megapixel autofocus camera on the back, as I've said, with a flash, and the flash, well, I can say it's pretty decent because it's very much the same as on the Vivaz. Quite happy with that, no problems. Talk time is actually listed at 12 hours and 30 minutes. Now if that's correct, that's pretty damn good. And standby time is listed at 430 hours. Again, that's pretty decent. It's the standard rechargeable battery, obviously, which is inside, which is 1200 milliamp hours. 109 millimeters from top to bottom, 52 millimeters wide and 15 millimeters thick. As I say, that's only 2 millimeters thicker than the Vivaz, despite having the QWERTY keyboard mechanism. Pretty decent. And it weighs only 117 grams, which does feel really light in the hand. It does, I think I mentioned when I come to do the original video of the Vivaz, kind of feels like a pretend one. And I don't mean that in any negative way, really. It's just how light it feels. It doesn't feel like there's enough stuff in there to make it work. So it's pretty lightweight. And the curvature and the design does mean it fits kind of nice in the palm of your hand. So we're going to do a full review of the Vivaz Pro over the next, say, a week or so. If you do want to see the operating system in more detail, it is a Symbian based operating system, although it's hugely customized by Sony Ericsson. It's almost unrecognizable as being Symbian, so please do check out some of our other videos for a detailed look at the operating system itself. Have a full review over the next week or so on tracyandmatt.co.uk, and don't forget to check out our other videos and reviews. There are plenty of them, and check us out on Twitter. On Twitter you can follow us twitter.com/tracyandmatt, and over on Facebook, facebook.com/tracyandmatt.co.uk. More videos and reviews over the next couple of weeks.